A very good afternoon, first of all, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So, a quick introduction first about the team here today. So, I am Dipanjana Shaha, and I take care of the demand generation part at Extra Edge. So, basically, my work is getting to know use cases of customers and making sure that they're delivered with the proper solution that they require. So, that is my basic KRA, and that is what I love to do. And today with me, I have my colleague and co-founder, Mr. Abhishek Vallabh. So a quick introduction about him would be that he is someone who is constantly wearing multiple hats and juggling between roles for Extra Edge, starting from being a product architect or a product manager when the time requires, to being a growth superstar and holding the fort whenever the team is juggling and making sure that Extra Edge is at the right track in terms of growth. But apart from that, the maximum collaboration where me and Abhishek work together is definitely understanding use cases of customers, what problems or what key areas they require us to help them with, and what kind of product solution or product path or a 360-degree solution can we come up with in solving your day-to-day admission challenges. So that is a quick introduction about us. So I will now rein it over to you, Abhishek, to give a quick introduction about what Extra Edge does and how do we help and work with educational institutes.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Dipanjana, for such a humbling introduction. By the way, I'm no superstar. I'm like learning every day like you and everybody else. I think one of the very important things that Extra Edge does on a daily basis is that we help admission teams for education brands to increase, manage, and predict their admissions and sales. So admission teams, marketing teams, outreach teams across education brands use Extra Edge as a CRM and marketing automation to meet their enrollment numbers. And that's what we do. We help your teams to win every day and achieve the numbers and and understand channel efficiency on an ongoing basis. Our primary beneficiary of our product, are universities, coaching, test prep, edtech companies, study abroad and overseas. Some of the names we have been working with around 250 across the globe now, and it's a very simple constant endeavor that in a digital first world where acquisition is primary, digital first, we are helping these brands understand this new go-to-market strategy, because when the go-to-market strategy is digital, then you require a digital tool to acquire those customers and understand about them. So it's a very interesting time in education and edtech as per se, and we are helping these brands to really acquire their students and understand the student journey during the admission cycle and make smart admission decisions, which we'll talk about today. So that's a bit about Extra Edge. We are headquartered in Pune and have been in operations for the past 4.5 years. So yeah, Dipanjana.
Yeah, so let's start with first understanding what we will be talking about today. So today's webinar is about making the right decision, making more informed decisions. So I am sure that the experts that we have today with us here are already making the right decisions for the admission processes. But what we will be helping today with is that how can you make more informed? When I say more informed, what I mean is how can we make more data-driven decisions? How our data can be ensured that they are accurate to the point, and what all parameters are required to ensure that your data is on point, is accurate, and you are making those informed decisions. So that is what me and Abhishek will be discussing today, and that is what we will go ahead and discuss on the entire presentation. But Abhishek, as you said that this session will be more interactive, we would love to hear from our audience, because I personally believe that today we have a very interesting set of audiences with us who are already experts and doing the best thing for their institutes. So what I would first love to start with is that I would want to know from our audience, why do we actually need reports, or why reports are necessary for any institute, or what is the core objective of having reports at any institute? So I would love to hear some interesting answers. So people in the audience, please do reply with some answers on what are your objectives when you look at a particular report for your institute, and we would love to start from there.
So I think we could just launch a poll, Deepanjana, and let people opt for it.
Yeah, definitely, Abhishek.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do is that as we start, we wanted to start with a small poll that what's exactly happening and at your end, and these kind of polls really help us to understand where you are right now, so that we could prioritize the time that we have today in the webinar based on the answers that we get from you, and not that just what we want to share. Although we'll share in a bit what we want to share, but we will try to prioritize based on the answers that we are getting here, right? So
And during the time everybody's answering the poll, so quite few rules. If you have any question, please do put up your question in the Q&A section. Please use the chat section for only putting up your thoughts on a particular question or a particular pointer that we would present today, because this is only for the sole reason that if a question is there in the chat section, we may miss it out, and we don't want to do that. So kindly please put your question in the Q&A section, answer the polls, and use the chat section for sharing any comments that you have in terms of the presentation or any pointers that we discuss.
how's the poll results looking like, Deepanjana? I mean, what are people saying?
Quite interesting results, Abhishek. So I can see from the answers that we do have experts here today with us who are stating that they do track certain of the admission parameters that are required for better reports, but they are still in doubts in understanding how it can be scaled up, how it can be made better, and what all measures can be taken to make sure that the reports are to the point, correct and accurate for more informed decisions.
Okay. So as people are answering, and I would highly recommend all of you present in the audience today to take this poll up, and as the result, as already Deepanjana suggests, is that we always want to make it better. So let's see how we could make it better then.
Yeah, definitely, Abhishek.
You're on mute.
We are already getting answers for why do we need reports. So let's move on and first check out what are the parameters that needed to be tracked in terms of getting a accurate report, right? So yes, so this slide looks very interesting, right, Abhishek? So from my experience of working with the education industry since last 3 to 4 years and being on both sides of the education, on the channel side plus on the technology side, what I have understood that the entire admission process lies on three main pillars. There are our leads, there are our channel, and then there are our people who are actually using those leads through those channels to convert leads into prospects or leads into students, right? So a integrated platform which helps you to integrate all your channels, your leads, your people into one place is very, very crucial for any accurate report or data. So when I say leads, I mean that if there is an inquiry or there is a student who visits your websites, fills up his details at 12 p.m., you need to make sure that you have a system in place that can capture that lead by maybe 12:01 or 12:02, and it's in front of your counselors to go ahead, do certain action on that lead. All your channels through which those leads are coming, it can be your publishers, your offline, your other online social media, your websites, your landing pages, everything should be linked with each other. And the third, that is people. I guess more or less we tend to not focus on that. We tend to talk about leads and channels most of the time, but we tend to forget that people using the platform is again crucial for accurate reports. For example, if you are an institute who has 12 members working for you and ensuring that the admissions are happening, you need to make sure that the 15 guys are updating the system on a day-to-day basis and rigorously using the system. The system is a part of their daily activity. Because if 10 people are doing that and 5 people are not doing that, the data is not accurate. The data is not at the point. So making sure that each and every channel, each and every lead, and all your people are synced into a system, and everything is getting updated and everything is integrated tightly is the basic of any admission reports to be accurate. So with that thought, I would want to know from you, Abhishek, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, Dipanjana. I mean, you are right. People and a lot of people that I have seen often focus on the first two parts, on the channels part and on the leads part, rightly so. But I think one of the most important things, which is often very underrated and not understood, is that have the teams and managers educated their counselors and their admission team members that what are the right questions that need to be asked and answered. For example, I see people creating around 10, 20, 30 odd reports. So it's like faster horses, right? So as Henry Ford said that, why don't build a car? I mean, people build faster horses, if they said. So people want more and more and more reports. And what happens is that you're looking at different data sets, but you have not even discussed or articulated what is the question that you want to answer. For example, if a question that you want to answer is that what is your lead to enrollment ratio? It's a simple question, which means that if you have 100 odd leads in the system, then how many people are getting enrolled at the end of the day? That will tell you how efficient your entire channel as well as your counselors are at the end of the day. That's a very important true indicator. But a lot of times we see there are 50 odd reports, but people do not even look at that ratio. And that ratio needs to be looked at. What was the last year? What was this year? Is it improving quarter on quarter as the admissions are progressing or not? Just a small example. And even if you're looking at that ratio, do your team members understand the significance of that ratio, and do they celebrate when the ratio goes up or not? I think that's a very important thing that to the audience, I would say that educating your people about what is the question that we want to answer from these reports and what does success look like. For example, if your conversion ratio from lead to enrollment was 1% last year and you did 1.5% this year, then that needs to be at least celebrated, right? You cannot expect it to go from 1 to 5. So we need to be realistic. We need to first of all define the questions which we want to answer, and the team really needs to understand why those questions are important, right? And what success looks like. So that will be my few cents, Dipanjana. As you have rightly mentioned here that these four pillars. So
So, Abhishek, one question that came up to my mind while you were discussing is that how to identify, how can a admission director or a admission team identify that these are the crucial questions which I need to, maybe think about on a priority basis, how to prioritize, because, for example, this year, admission team's target, maybe I want to focus more on my people, how to scale up them, or how to analyze or understand that where are they lagging. Is this a technology that they require, or is this some kind of upscaling that they require? Or on the other hand, some admission team may be thinking about that how can we introduce new courses, what can go well, what can not go well. So how to identify those questions?
yeah, it's a good question, Dipanjana. I think before that we need to answer a precursor to that what are the pillars. I think there are four pillars, and we need to first of all identify the pillars. The first pillar is basically your product, as you have rightly pointed out here. Your product are your courses, and your courses can be one or many, and these courses can be increasing every day as we speak, or they might also be shrinking down because some courses might not be working. So your product. Then your people, as you rightly said, your counseling team, marketing team, outreach team. In people, I would also count people who are also your partners, your publishers, your digital marketing companies, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Then comes marketing or channels where you're spending money. Any place where you're spending money, right from your Google AdWords, Facebook, to a publisher like Shiksha or anybody, right? That's constitutes marketing. And finally, admission constitutes that what's happening with your leads coming into the system. Are they converting, not converting? How does the funnel look like, right? So once you identify these pillars, then you can start asking the question. And I'll give you a very quick example of two good questions to ask, right? That what was the cost per acquisition for last year as compared to this year? What it means is that in marketing, if you spend 1 crore and your revenue that comes from fees is 5 crore, then you are at 20%. Did it improve this year? Did it move from 20% to say 15%? Or did your revenue increase from say 6 crore to 7 crore or 6.5 crore? That's one question that you can answer. It's a marketing question, right? In the admission question, the simple question could be that are all your products which have maximum intake are getting filled on time or not? Filled on time is very, very important. That a lot of people are very happy that admissions are happening, but did the admissions happen before time or after time? Because if the admissions happen before time, that's a good indicator of supply, that there's a lot of demand for your particular program. right? So looking at your deadline and your enrollment date can be a good indicator for admissions. So on and so forth. Similar for people that who in a less amount of time it's converting more leads to enrollments and so on and so forth, which products are working or not. So once you identify the pillars, Deepanjana, then you can then start to ask questions, and a report or a multiple reports can answer those questions. That's how I would ideally want to think about this whole process. And if you go to the previous slide, right, which you had, and so there were really good questions here, right? And these are really good questions. Now you would say that my people are not doing well, but that will be a generic lame statement, like a generic statement does not work. Which counselor is doing great in terms of conversions is a good question to ask. Yes. Right? Which is a channel which is currently optimized for growth? And optimized for growth could be that a digital marketing agency who's really doing well for you is really doing its job well, because all the leads coming from them, if they manage Facebook, have a higher conversion rate, right? So these could be a couple of good questions. What course and program are doing well is pretty obvious, right? And then how many admissions and applications are done is an important question. One thing I will talk about applications for universities is that more is the applicant pool, the better you have flexibility to choose the right set of students who fit. Because these students are not just going to come, they are going to come and they need to be having a certain set of quality, which would lead to certain set of performance and finally their employability tomorrow, right? So that needs to be also taken care of. So applicant pool and wider applicant pool is very important. Also gender diversification in the applicant pool and exclusivity of various nationalities if people are applying from multiple countries, male and female ratio. These are important questions here which can be analyzed, right? So I think once you have identified your 4 core pillars of people, marketing, product, and your admissions, then you can start plugging in these questions, and then you can start looking at the reports. And I would highly advise people in the audience to maybe in this year follow this process for a change and see what happens.
Definitely. I'm sure most of them must be doing that to some extent. And I guess with our today's session, they'll get more clarity on what questions to ask whenever you are looking for a report, or you're asking your team to create a report. What set of questions should you tell them that your report should give me this answer? So I guess the questions will be pretty clear from now on. So with that, Abhishek, let's move on to the next section. And I would want to share with our audience today what are few great examples of good reports, like how good reports look like and how good reports are bifurcated. How can you bifurcate in terms of the pillars that you have mentioned: product report, people report, communication channel report, marketing report? How do they look like? So
Right.
do you want me to give you the screen share access for that?
Yeah, of course. So before you do that, Deepanjana, what I would like to say to the audience is that hey, look, we are also not full-fledged experts. We are also learning, right? And I can just start with some of the myths that people have, which I encounter based on the conversation on daily basis, right? More reports are not good reports, first of all, right? I think identifying the right set of reports which really answer your question is very important. Visualizations and good graph and charts look amazing and look beautiful and well, but often not, I have found that at the end of the day, a normal table, a 2x2 matrix of table does the job well. So sometimes we really need to look at that. Maybe the simplest solution is the best one. A normal table will talks about your counselors, your sources, and your enrollment count will do the job, right? So it's the myth is that more reports are good. Myth is that more chart, more visualization is good. Probably in a corporate setup where people need to present something, it's good, and it definitely is good. I'm not saying it's not good, but a lot of times answers can be found by a normal table itself, right? So probably we optimize for that. Yeah. Third myth which I would like to bust about reports is that when should be reports being seen? What should be the frequency of looking at these, right? A lot of good teams that we know start their mornings by looking at the reports and asking questions and so on and so forth, right? So frequency is very important. And finally, I would say that reports should be educated to your teams as not an agent of vigilance. It should be educated as an agent of accountability. And that is very important. Imagine that your every person who's working with you knows he or she is performing well or not every day by looking at her own dashboard. What kind of democratic environment would that be, right? Where they know that they are doing well and it's reflected right away. And that's where gamification and leaderboards also come in, where people know how they're performing with each other, relative to each other. So reports should be an agent of accountability rather than an agent of scrutiny, so as to speak. So these are some of the myths that I thought, Deepanjana, that probably we should burst. And without further ado, I'll share my screen and take you through some of the dashboards that I personally feel are relevant and pertinent. So yeah, so again, it's our own dashboard, but rather than focusing around application, I will tell you the tenets of it, right? So one of the first things that you would want to ideally set up going forward is that you really need to have some counts, right? Some important counts, that how many leads came in, how many enrollments happened, and so on and so forth. Now, the counts are sometimes very, very important because your management at times might not be interested in diving deeper. They will just ask about a count. For example, if I am running an institute and I'm working with my admission head, I will ask at a given point in time, hey, look, how many enrollments have happened to date? And he will say that 65 enrollments, right? I will want to also ask the question that, can you give me a list of who those 65 enrollments are, right? Then these are my 65 guys. I should be able to quickly download this one and share it with him right away. It took me probably around 40 seconds to do this, right? So this is the ease through which you can go from a number to a data very, very quickly. So that's the first thing that I thought that we should be speaking about. Another very important aspect here is that the four pillars that I spoke about. The first pillar, as I spoke about, is the admission, which is the funnel, right? How does a funnel look like over a period of time? So for example, if your leads are coming in, and these are normal stages, right? Enrolled, not enrolled, touched, not interested. What's happening here? If you are a university and you have an application process, then you might want to know that how many people are stuck probably in the registration incomplete process, because your telecalling team might call them and help them to move through that process. That process becomes very, very critical, very, very important, right? In this case, right? So that's from a admission point of view. Now comes from a channel point of view, right? Which Deepanjana also spoke about, because she herself comes from that background, that when we speak about sources, right? Which sources are performing well? Where are the enrollments coming from? Where are the leads coming from? Often than not, we find that some of the channels that you put money, either a huge amount of leads are coming, or very, very few leads are coming in. Both are bad actually, because if a lot of leads are getting pumped from a single source, your people might not have the bandwidth to work on them. And if the number of leads are very, very less, then probably the data will be skewed up. I mean, imagine you are getting around 5 leads in a month and you have around 400 seats to fill. It will be very difficult for you to make justice out of it, right? So what is the division of these leads coming from these sources? And this applies both for Deepanjana, the leads for coming into the system, and also for the application, because application are more sales qualified lead as such. Their intent is even more huger for a university. And what we have found lately is that not only university and group of institutes, even edtech companies and even lot of coaching and test prep are going by the application process route. Because what the application process gives an interface to a consumer or a kid or a parent to fill all the details, upload all their documents upfront, where the onus of collecting the data is more on the students and on the parent side and not on the institute side, considering the fact that we are looking at a third lockdown now, right? So it's very important that that online power of sharing your data, which is available on the consumer side, is available to the consumer. And a lot of non-university and non-group of institutes are also realizing, and we are seeing wider adoption of our application forms there, right? So that's the second part of what I talk about from a source, a channels perspective, right? Finally, again, this is very beautiful, where a lot of discussion happens about who's doing what in terms of people in the organization, right? So you have a team of 50 people, 30 people, how many leads are assigned, how many applications are assigned, what conversion is looking like, and so on and so forth is also a very important metric. And finally, overall funnel, how it's looking like. So this is the first thing, right? From number to report and flexibility of going there. That's the first thing, Deepanjana, I would want to talk about. And just also sharing with the fact that ability to dice it on date, on your people, and on the various channels or sources, substatus, department, and courses. That is also equally important. Now with that, I will spend the next few minutes talking about these 4 pillars. And let's start with the first and foremost pillar of channel. Channel basically are where you're spending your money and leads are coming from. It could also be a managed channel where your digital marketing agencies are managing your Facebook or Google AdWords or the landing pages, right? So what do you do there, right? The first thing that you really need to understand that, and that's a basic question, right? Where are the enrollments happening from? That's a very basic question, right? That these are my enrollment count by source. Are they coming from, CAT examination, from chatbot, from application, from Facebook? And this is the report which should be seen every day by marketing heads, marketing managers, head of admissions, and head of admission should be talking to their marketing person or their marketing manager on a daily basis, especially during the heated admission cycle that goes on. And they should be asking questions like, how does it look like? For example, how does it look like in the last week, for example? So let's look at the last week. So last week, no leads have come in. What happens in the last 30 days, for example? In the last 30 days, only 3 have come, by the way, right? So what is happening? So we just came to know people were celebrating New Year. Great. What's happening in the last 90 days? Is it even down or not? Great, evened out. And what's happening across the year then in this case? Is it skewed up? So it's exactly skewed up. So why leads are not coming from website? And this is a question that you should be asking. And then somebody can go back and talk to the website team that, are you changing something on the form? And so on and so forth. That's the dialogue that an admission head should be having with a marketing manager today, right? And this should continue very clearly with looking at what are the channels which are performing well. So basically, Deepanjana, channels are nothing but a good grouping of all these sources, right? So for example, if people are conducting webinars, so webinars still is predominantly a replacement of an offline channel. So it will come under offline. Online will be your Google, PPC, AdWords, and so on and so forth, which is giving me the highest lead to enrollment ratio. Is it offline, online? Where should I putting money on? Where are the applications coming on? And I told you, Deepanjana, sometimes tables often than not do not look very smart than a graph, but they answer a lot of questions right away for you. An ability to slice and dice your lead to applications and the ratios are equally very, very important, right? So that's also a very important thing to understand, return on investment, because you're spending money and every money the marketing managers are accountable for today, right? So this is what I wanted to talk about, Deepanjana, from a channel point of view. Now, very quickly segueing from a channel point of view to a very important aspect of people, and which is where a lot of things happen and start. And I want to start with a very simple things, right? Which are the people in the organization who are doing maximum number of enrollments, right? And I'll give you a very small example. Also, you need to ask this question, is that how much time does this person has had in the system? What is the seniority of these person? What is the skill level of these person? So if you see, for example, Abhishek, who joined recently, has only 2 years of experience, has done 9 enrollments as compared to Rakesh, who's there in the system for probably around 10 to 12 years. And probably Abhishek needs to be further incentivized. Abhishek needs to be further celebrated. Abhishek needs to be given the all good leads from good sources, which are coming, maybe a Google AdWord or an application form and so on and so forth. So I think there are few things, Deepanjana, or second order effect of reports that needs to be transformed in the behavior in the teams also. That who do you reward, who do you reprimand, right? And who do you give more responsibility to? And that really comes into perspective as far as people are concerned in the organization. We also run sales teams and marketing teams. You know what I'm talking about, right? So that is a very important aspect which I thought that I will try to kind of cover here, right? And also going further, things like that how many calls were made and so on and so forth. These are all leading indicators. These are all important, by the way. I'm not saying these are not important, but then these become very critical when you have large volumes of lead coming in. So, how many calls got connected, how many people, what's the average duration of the call? This is a beautiful question, Deepanjana, because what we have found is that if a counselor is able to have that telephonic conversation or a video call for around 2 minutes to 3 minutes to 4 minutes, right, between that 120-second to probably 240 seconds, right, then he's able to hold that conversation, give more contextual information, as compared to somebody who's just able to have a 20-second, 30-second average call, which means that people are rejecting him right and center. So the pitch needs to be corrected, perhaps, right? Maybe in this case. So these can give you that indicator. So it's by looking at the data, what data should answer what question becomes very, very important. And for a lot of people here, probably after the webinar, we should go ahead and publish a lot of questions also, Deepanjana, to the audience, that what are the good questions to ask. Probably we'll go ahead and do that for you guys, right? But then, looking at not only the calls connected, but a very, very important aspect is that, are the follow-ups happening on time or not? I mean, nothing has changed in sales in the last 50 years. Finally, people lose deals because they are not disciplined in their follow-ups, right? How many people are messing up their follow-ups and why? Are they busy? Most of times we have found that it's not the lackadaisical approach of the people. It's not that people are lazy or they don't want to work. Their neck is deep into some other activities, right? Their neck.
That can be one of the things. They're not aware. They're not privy of what action has to be taken.
Correct. They're not privy. Yeah. Absolutely. They're not privy. And more than that, their neck is deep in some other administrative work, right? And they're not able to do that. So free them from there and then allot the leads to somebody else, because Abhishek is missing all his follow-ups. So yeah, that's the people side of it. So, and once Abhishek starts to see his follow-ups are being missed every day, he will go back and talk to Deepanjana and say that, hey, look, you take this workload off my shelf, right? And probably allow me to call these parents and students and let them give them the information that they want at this point in time, right? So that covers, Deepanjana, more the people side. On a very quick way, on the product side, I think we are seeing an age, Deepanjana, where a lot of brands are having multiple offering of products, right? Yeah. So institute is just not having a UG and PG program. They're having certificate program, diploma program. They're tying up with edtech companies to come up with interesting courses and programs. So every program needs to be seen as a different business unit. As somebody clearly articulated that, why do we need report at the start to understand business units? And you need to look at every course as a business unit. How many applications are coming in? Why applications are not coming for the BBA course? Is it the market reality, or is it not being promoted properly? Is the benchmarking with competition not done properly, right? How the enrollment is looking like? How much paid applications we have received for a particular course and program, and why not? So these are the product questions that really need to be asked. And in the product question, an important stakeholder could be a VC of an organization or an owner of an organization. He needs to be involved, because it's more of a business decision to start a product, market the product, position of product, or quality of the course in itself also contributes here, right? Finally, last but not the least, Deepanjana, a couple of more quick things. I think demographic analysis is becoming very, very important. We live in a decentralized, globalized world where people can apply from any city and state. So understanding of where to put money on the ground becomes also very critical and important for a lot of brands. For the ATL and DTL activities, which are not going to stop, they are going to continue, albeit in a lower volume, but they are going to continue. And finally, your analysis of communication of email, SMS, and WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. These are basic things, but they also need to be tracked, because consumables also cost money at the end of the day, yes, right here. So, without taking much time, I wanted to talk about these things, and I'll leave it back to you by just saying that I think there needs to be a dashboard which needs to be looked on a daily basis, and count to data access should be there. C is that these 4 pillars of product, people, admission, as well as marketing need to be associated with questions, and every question should have 2 or 3 graphs or reports that answer those questions. I think if somebody is able to spend some time articulating this structure, I think they will do a fantastic job as compared to having around 50 or 70 odd reports.
Definitely.
So, over to you.
One quick thing which I would again want to highlight, Abhishek, is that with admission season at peak, we have always seen that channels, and in particularly the vendors or publishers, who play a very, very vital role in aiding with those inquiries and those leads to any institute, which have them to succeed. Report or a dashboard for them is also critical, right? So we have spoken about all internal reports, but something which is external and rolled out to all your vendors, so that they have a 360-degree view of what is actually happening, which leads are performing well, which are not performing well, what kind of channels should they focus on, will also ensure that the institute and the vendors are partners who are working together in achieving a single goal. And what I have seen being on the channel side is that if a report is missing or if a proper tracking is missing, what happens is that uh, in between the journey you all segregate, and then you run behind different goals, and your focus is not there that we have to reach the admission target for a particular institute. Institute A is our client, is our main focus, and helping them to win will help us to win. We tend to forget that. So having a consolidated view, having a 360-degree view where your vendors are on clarity, where you are on clarity, your team is on clarity, and everyone knows what is happening, and everyone is accountable for each and penny that is being spent, is the crux of any report, which I believe.
And Deepanjana, nobody likes confrontation.
Yeah.
We often see that two parties are arguing over what number they have given, and I think everybody has now accepted that that's a reality, will happen every year. I think that should be avoided, and more questions should be asked that how can we improve our conversions, how can we improve our quality of leads, and so on and so forth, rather than being in a confrontative mode where people are arguing that what are you giving is not good, and the other person is saying that when we're giving, your people are not calling properly or not nurturing properly. So I think that mind space can be avoided to focus on more productive questions to it. I think we have a couple of questions, Deepanjana.
Yes.
Would you want to take them?
Yes. So I would want to ask you this question, which has been raised by Farheen Siddiqui. So what he's saying is that we are using a widget form of third party and running ads through Google, but unable to count conversions through forms because widget hosted on another domain. GTAG and analytics unable to count exact number of conversion. How do we solve this issue?
So Farheen, basically, you're right. This is a problem. This is a problem faced by most marketers, and this problem comes because your widgets are from a third party and hosted on a third party, and they are not on your own domain. I think what we have done, what we have seen that people do is that there is Google GCL ID, and there is what we call Google Conversion Tracking Manager, right? Here, people generate that tracking conversion. They put one tracking conversion on your widget side, and one tracking conversion is put basically on the JavaScript that acts when the widget is filled, right? So there are two things, right? Your wherever on your third party the widget, and on submit button of the widget, right, the lead is getting captured. So on the on submit of the widget, your tracking code, which is matching, which is set on your Google Tracking Manager, gets initiated parallelly. And when the lead gets created, in the CRM itself, you could have a parameter called GCL ID, which gets kicked in right away. So what you could do is that if your form was submitted from maybe 20 times, right, then you can go ahead and filter by date and filter by GCL ID. And you could see that, okay, there are 20 leads, the CRM, which came from 20, that came from Google, widget on a Google Tag Manager from there. So making sure that effectively using your Google Tag Manager and using that ID and having that ID being passed on submit button of the widget might help you to come closer to that problem. Because then when it's happening on the on submit of the widget, you're passing that Google ID or Google Tag Manager's ID back to the CRM, where we are able to filter an attribute in a time duration that how many came from that particular GCL ID. That could be the nearest solution to your problem,
Okay. So before we move on to the next part of presentation, one more question that we have is, we are a group of institute in a tier 2 city. What are the top 5 analytics that we need to track regularly?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, please track analytics for each institute in a different manner. Maybe. So don't mix all institutes in one. So if you have maybe group of institutes, then track these institutes separately. That's the first thing. I think if you are a group of institutes, then you fall under the University Institute umbrella. Then I would say that there are 3-4 things that you should be tracking are basically your lead to enrollment ratio, right? That's a very important metric. If you are having application form getting filled, you should also be tracking your lead to application ratio, right? Very important. So these are basically what we call marketing metrics, lead to enrollment, lead to application. And then you should be tracking sales metrics where your people comes into picture, which are basically application to closure, application to fee paid, for example. And then you would want to track lead to application, how many leads are coming in and moving to applications, and how good your people are doing a job of moving them. So these are the two things that you would want to track from a more think people perspective. And third metric that you should track is how much amount of money you're spending in your channels, right? And what kind of enrollment are you getting from those channels, right? And if you can also multiply that enrollment with your average fees, then you can do a clear ROI analysis that you're spending around 50 lakh rupees and you're getting a revenue of around 2.5-3 crores. Then you can do that analysis. So that's more of a, and the one that I told you right now, this cannot be done very directly. This has to be done through multiple permutations and combinations. And finally, you'll end up on a Google sheet or an Excel sheet itself, which is okay, but you should go ahead and do that. So that's a third kind of analysis I'll do. Fourth and final, what I would want to do is performance of counselors. So performance of counselors in terms of how many leads were given to them and how many leads converted to application, and how many applications that were there with them at any point in time, how many got finally fee got paid and they took an admission in yours. So this is, I think, the most important metric that you will track. Also, a lot of people track number of calls made and duration of the call made and so on and so forth. I will not advise you to track number of calls made. Probably I will advise you to track number of calls made along with the average duration of the call that the people have. Now that's a good indicator. That's a qualitative indicator of calling rather than a quantitative indicator. So I'm not saying quantitative indicator is not true. It's true. It needs to be there, but it needs to be always calibrated along with the quantitative indicator of average call duration. If it's around 2 minutes, 3 minutes, then at least somebody is having a conversation with someone, which is good for you. Then you can deep dive into listening to some of the calls and saying that is the quality of the call good or not in this case. So I think these will be the 4 or 5 things. We will publish maybe a small one-pager infographic to you guys, so that you could look at these ones and later on.
Yeah. Okay. Great, Abhishek. Thank you so much. So before we move on to the next section of our discussion, I'll just summarize what you have spoken about, Abhishek, till now. So you have spoken about the importance of tracking channel ROI, and this is how a simple chart would look like. This would give each and every institute a clear picture of what has happened with each and every penny that they have spent acquiring leads or acquiring channels who have worked best for them and what is not worked best for them. So next, institutes can focus on having a clear picture of the publisher dashboard and making sure that everyone is working together and supporting each other to move towards a single goal of overachieving the admission targets. Then reporting in terms of analyzing how your people are doing, calling reports or counselor reports, how many conversion from counselors, how are the calling happening. So I guess what Abhishek said is really correct. Tracking is not happening to analyze someone's work or to judge that whether he or she is doing their work or not. It is more from a perspective that what can be done to upscale the team, or what can be done better to make sure that the leads that are coming in or the money that we are pouring into the market can be converted and churned to the optimal level. So yes, team tracking and team performance tracking is one of the reports that a team should definitely look at. Application funnel, definitely, because application is the place, or application form are a product wherein you can find out your prospects with high intent, because they have taken out time to fill in details, upload their documents, go through the several processes, and clicked on various links to get verified and do all sort of things and pay a registration fee. So they are your high intent prospects. So having a track of them and communicating with them regularly and making them feel valued is very important in nowadays, because people tend to go there where they are valued. So obviously having a track of your application structure is definitely one of them. And with application comes a byproduct of having an analysis of fee collection as well. How much application fee have come and how much is pending on team.
So Deepanjana, here, I would like to mention an important thing that what has also happened probably in a post-pandemic time, that people do not pay the full fees. They do a micro payment, and then they will confirm their seat, and micro payment can be an fees for an application form, or it could be a 10,000 or 15,000 micro payment, and they confirm the fees. So having ability in your reporting structure to understand that micro fees, and then probably pass that MIS or Excel sheet or data to your finance team for further processing to your MIS or ERP becomes very, very important here. So, your product or CRM or whatever you're using need to have an ability to collect these micropayments and then pass on that micropayment as a confirmation input to your wider financial system, like a QuickBooks or Tally, or maybe, as a dump to your financial and controlling team, who can further process this further on, right? We have seen that a lot of institutes now process their fees and their application payments on CRM platform itself by linking with Paytm, payment gateways and so on and so forth. So that is also a very important, because at the end of the day, it's a revenue coming in for the organization, right? So this reports becomes also equally important. Yeah, Deepan.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next section. So one thing that working with you we have understood is one question that you always ask us कि अभी ये report बहुत अच्छा है, number बहुत अच्छा है, but what to do with that? Tell me that. So how do we link that with our end goal or the next strategic level discussion that we are having? I'm sure that this is a discussion that must happen in all the meeting rooms around this globe. That now reports are good, bad, average. We know what have we done. What next? What can we infer from the report, and how can we link into the strategic plans that we have for the organization or for the next admission season or this season? So over to you, Abhishek, how to link that?
Yeah, so I'll start with a simple one, Deepanjana. I mean, let's start with the simplest and the easiest one, then probably we move to the complicated one, right? I think track your admission trends to create new strategies. I'll give you an example. So last year, mostly kids were at home and people did admissions online and everything. So they must have seen that Google AdWords and Facebook and the word to mouth organic SEO were a very important trends. And all of you must have done some or the other investment in that area, right? I think it's time to double down on that investment rather than again going to ATL, BTL hoardings and those kind of promotion activity and putting ads on newspaper and magazines and stuff. Maybe you do that to an extent of keeping your brand in the mind space of the people, but then pulling money out from there and doubling down on these things which work are very, very critical and very, very important. Today, I can tell you that your organic discovery for your keywords using SEO and SEM could be your greatest competitive advantage in terms of your admissions. I just typed in best BBA college in Bangalore and I got you in the first page. I think a lot of efforts are already done there because people are going to search, and search volumes in admissions have gone by the roof. I mean, there was a trend that we were seeing that there were probably around 10 to 12,000 searches on keywords admissions, which went to around 50,000 to 70,000 searches every month on keywords admissions today, right? So this is the 8x or 9x upsurge that we are seeing right now in the searches itself. So talking to your people and saying that how can we organically or via Google AdWords and paid ads being listed better, right? Organically could be one of the things that you should probably link by looking at how the trend has been last year. And the trend could be that I got maximum number of applications from organic, means people directly came from Google AdWords and from Facebook, for example, or Instagram. Time to double down and invest in our digital strategies right away. Don't think about print, PR, radio, television. Think about them. Invest a sizable chunk there, but not a disproportionate chunk there. Pull the money out and put the money into your SEO. Hire a good SEO guy, hire a good PPC guy, hire a good agency, and tell them that this is what you expect out of them, right? That will be the first thing, Deepanjana, that I would say. It's very simple, but often than not, you and me know that people don't do this, right? They retort to what they have known for the past 15 to 20 years, which works, but that has some diminishing returns, and that might not work considering the fact the money that you put in today, right? So that's the first thing. I'll talk about the second thing and maybe you can cover the rest once. I think inspecting the strongest and weakened link in the admission process. Very interesting insight I will share with the audience that I have seen people or admission managers and admission head spend the least amount of time in training their people how to talk.
Yeah.
They invest so much money in leads. They negotiate with publishers, with vendors. They build a great website. They work on the copy and everything. But when a kid calls, on a parent calls, how the person will be talking, if the question is asked to you that how are you better than this particular institute and this particular program, how are you better than an upgrade online course, there needs to be a good answer to that question, right? So I would say that looking and listening to the recordings of their calls. Now, CRM should have an ability to make audio calls and video calls. You look at those recordings of those calls, you listen. Probably you start your season by listening randomly to 1 or 2 good 2 to 3 minute call of all your people, and spend 2-day boot camp, 3-day boot camp in polishing the script. Now, nobody tells about this. People talk about channel efficiency, but these are the weakest link which slip. And you are the best person, being an admission head of marketing manager, to tell your guys how they should be positioning yourself today in front of the smart millennial kid or a parent who has multiple options. So that becomes very, very important. And these are the two things, Dipanjana, that I will talk about. Is I have given you specific examples, but then there could be many analogies to it. It could be script, it could be collaterals on the website, it could be copy on the brochure, and so on and so forth. Simple, clear, crystal, differentiating yourself, more importantly, is the most important thing. So I think these will be my two things that I would want to really emphasize on.
Definitely, Abhishek. I definitely believe that reports help you to drive and come out with your business USPs actually. So your strongest points can be your business USPs that you market upon and say that these are your differentiators, right? So another thing which I have seen is that we do track reports and we do see at reports that okay, this was the target that we plan to achieve and this is the number that we have reached. But sometimes where I see the lack is, are we really understanding that what were our objective, what were we planning to achieve, and the strategies that are we following, is that helping us to achieve that? So for example, recently I came up with a problem of a client where he actually went back and looked at his marketing strategies and he understood that his landing pages for that matter is something which is giving him a traffic, but the content of the landing page was something which was not appealing to the students, and that's why they couldn't convert. There was a lot of visits in the landing page, but people were not actually submitting their details and registering on that page, which was only 4 to 5 fields. So maybe understanding that, quick picking on that, that this is something which I need to work on. And in the next 24 hours, what I have seen was that he was back with a new landing page, a landing page which was visually more appealing, content was crisper, content was appealing to any Gen Zs or millennials who would apply, go on that page and apply to that application form. So this kind of analytics and this kind of strategical viewpoints a report gives you, that what is working for you, what is not working for you. So a team who is tracking what are the visits that are coming on their website, on their landing page, or for that matter any digital page or any social media page that they have, and how are they reacting. If I am getting 49 views on my page and only 4 application forms, then you have to analyze that there is something wrong in my content maybe, or maybe the visualization. So understanding those kind of trends on your reports and quick picking on that and working on that to actually make sure that they're working and they're in line with your current strategies and current objectives and reaching that admission goal is very, very important, which I believe strategically. You're on mute, Abhishek.
Also, you make an interesting point, and just for the audience, which is beyond the purview of the CRM itself, I think having a sharp eye on your Google Analytics data is very, very important, right? How your website traffic is moving, and if you're not tracking week on week your daily or weekly active users, what we call DAU on your website, then I think then you're making a mistake. So for all the people in the audience, I would say that have one designated person to draw a report out of Google Analytics. There are so many reports there. I mean, there's so many reports, it's confusing, right? So a simple report of week on week, how many unique visitors or unique users are coming onto your website and your landing pages separately. Just tracking that and setting a goal that I want to make sure that this increases month on month by 10%.
Yeah.
So this month in January, 300 people came in. I will want that in February, at least 310 people should come in. And then increasing it further on to 20%, that I want to go to 350 to 400, right? Doing these small things by, as Dipanjana rightly said, changing the content, changing the form, making it easier for them to fill the form will be very, very critical and very, very important.
Definitely. Correct, Abhishek. So we would go to the next part of the presentation, which is again more interesting part. I believe that what report to look at and when to look at. So I have always believed that it depends on what is your question. So we have spoken about certain questions of our audience. Remember in the start of our webinar that what kind of questions should a report answer. So it should
Yep.
answer that how are my counselor working. So if you are looking an answer for this question, maybe looking at those reports daily will help you.
Correct. Deepanjana, people reports daily. Every morning, starting your day with a 1 hour or 45 minutes of how many people made how many applications, how many people have been assigned how many leads, which leads are untouched, what's the target of moving application to enrollment today, daily basis, always, right? uh, you know I'll go ahead, Deepanjana, and talk about that. Every month there needs to be at least one analysis about channel and source. Definitely. I mean, I would say it should be done fortnightly twice because things change in a couple of weeks. But monthly is a good cadence to look at your spend in marketing, because generally your spend in marketing starts to give fruit in probably a month and a quarter, right? It takes some gestational time to perform because of its newness and the nature of the marketing, digital marketing, how it is. So monthly analysis, a meeting with your digital marketing team, with your publisher team, all in the same room, discussing about it, very, very important, right? And I think weekly is a very good cadence, Deepanjana, about the admission part. Then how many leads to application, how many application to admit, how far are we from our total intake, right? So if we have an intake of 250 and we have an admission cycle, a season for 6 months, for example, and we are sitting in third month, right? Have we crossed the 150 mark or not?
Yeah.
And if not, then what are we going to do about it, right? Then we have probably 12 more weeks remaining, and including holidays. What our team can potentially do in the next 12 weeks to move that from 150 to 300 or before that. So looking at your conversion numbers should be done on a weekly basis. Of course, these are prescriptive suggestions. You may want to do it on a daily basis, everything, but then these are some prescriptions that we see how the nature of these reports can be utilized in these kind of timely manner.
Definitely.
Right. Quarterly, I think, I don't know, quarterly is more of an analysis of different institutions. So if you have a UG program for an institute and a PG program for another institute, maybe different admission teams can probably gather today on a quarterly basis and discuss strategies that is working for them and not working for them. So a UG guy can tell you that what they are doing with Google AdWords, which could be beneficial for a institute to as a PG program, for example, right? So the intermingling of tribal knowledge that people have in an organization, if you have multiple institutes and programs, I think can be done on a quarterly basis.
Great, correct. So with this, we have come to an end of today's presentation on reports. But before we move on to the Q&A section, Abhishek, I would quickly like to summarize what we have spoken about till now.
Sure.
So first, we started with all the parameters that need to be tracked and the value of an integrated platform. So all your 4 pillars that Abhishek spoke about, your product, your people, your channels, your sales and admissions, everything need to be at a single platform, integrated and closely interlinked. It shouldn't be that one department is not aware of what is happening with the other stuff. That should not be the case. Everything should be interlinked and integrated. Post that, we took you through how a correct or a basic or a right informed report looks like, and what are the reports that you should actually be looking at, what all questions should you actually be hunting answers for. So the questions can be, how are your team performing, which counselors have performed the best, how is your course performing, which courses are outperforming, which courses can be improved on. Another question that you could ask is, how are your application numbers and how are your admission numbers looking at. So there's a few correct questions to be asked when you are looking at a report. Post that, we also spoke about how you can link your reports to your strategical decisions, finding out the weak link in your entire process, let it be people or product, and making sure that you make the necessary changes. You understand marketing trends that are happening and you make the necessary spends on that, and you also manage your spends on the basis of that, because marketing is a long process that we have understood it the hard way. We have done it and we have understood that this is a long process and you need to have patience and you need to keep on trying and testing a lot of things. So yes, how you can link that to your strategical decision making for your institute, and finally we spoke about how often should you look at a particular report. So if you are looking at your team performance, daily is ideal, maybe weekly if it works for you. If you are looking at marketing or admission numbers, monthly or fortnight is something that you should definitely look at. And if you are planning something on a strategic level on which courses are working, how did your UG perform, how did your PG perform, quarterly is something that will definitely work for you. So with this, Abhishek, let's answer some questions and give
Yeah.
clarity
So,
for our
Vandana, while I answer the question for the audience, right? I think there is a small poll that we have, which
yes,
we would like to quickly take. And so, Dipanjana, maybe you could the poll, and while you answer the poll, I'll take some of the questions. So, I think one of the questions asked by somebody from the audience anonymously is that what metrics are important for small edtech? I think a very quick question, quick answer here. For small edtech, you should look at organic, because if you are small and you're edtech, then you will not want to spend a lot of money. So ranking good on Google search, so focus on SEO SEM ranking is, so I would want to look at that, what are the really good keywords for your particular course and offerings, and how do you rank organically on those keywords. uh, and I would probably go ahead and run some Google ads and Google paid ads on those keywords. So that's the first thing that I will do. And I will then track that, are you on page 1? Or probably if you are on page 5 or 6, then what can you do to move to page 1? Which will mean that you're writing some of the blogs, you are doing some backlinking by posting contents on other sites, and so on and so forth. So I think for edtech, how do you rank on your keywords? Running Google AdWords and the cost per lead on Google AdWords is what I will be tracking. If your generation is on Instagram, where you are attracting them, so probably starting Instagram ads, running sponsored Instagram ads there, and tracking your cost per lead from there onwards. I think these are the some small metrics I'll start to track before moving into website traffic and counselor and people and all those things that come later on. Because if you're a small tech, your price point might not be as lucrative like a university program. So you do not have the ability to have a sales force, a big sales force. So organic SEO, SEM, and your Google AdWords and Instagram ads is what you should be tracking on, and conversions from there. I think how can do you give center-wise reports also who all have access to report? Yes, I think we work with a lot of vocational skilling and edtech companies, sir, uh, who have more than around 150 odd centers, for example. Then every center has a center manager, or there is a location head of a west, south, north, and east, who have around 50 or 60 centers under their belt. So those hierarchies are already built in the reports, where people can go and they can dice and slice and look at their center-wise analysis or the region-one analysis, so as to speak. So yes, that's definitely possible. I think what are the top must-have reports you should track by default? Again, we have said that, but as the question has been asked, reports related to your counselor's performance in terms of enrollment and in terms of paid applications is one. In terms of channel ROI, in terms of enrollment and paid applications or walk-ins or student interaction in a case of an edtech or vocational is another thing. Third is how your courses and program are doing across them. Are the intake vis-a-vis the time to fill that intake, are they getting filled every time 100% or not, is something that I'll track, which will also give me an ability to discard some of the courses or introduce some new courses. Because when you discard something, then you can probably include something, right? In this case is the third thing. And fourth and foremost, I would mention is that understanding the entire funnel from an admission perspective, how many applications, how many enrollments across the entire intake. These will be the 3-4 things that I will want to track across people, product, channel, as well as your admission funnel, right? I think there's a last question, very interesting question. Can we make
question, Abhishek, I would once again request everyone on our audience to kindly please take the poll, because this poll would help to understand, are we both on the same page, and are we together, moving towards the same objective of helping you to find out the correct reports. So please do participate and give answers to the poll.
Yeah, I think what we intend to do, people on the audience, is that based on your suggestions, we will circulate, some questionnaire which can be used for you to create and build your own reports. We'll also be circulating this presentation to all of you who have attended. so that you can draw some inference along with the recording of the call from there. So by taking the poll, you will let us know that how can we reach out to you for giving you more information about it. Right? Now, moving to the last question, can we make automated actions through CRM based on reports and like not pass on leads to someone who's not converting? Great question. As of now, we are not able to do that, but I think this is a kind of a wonderful suggestion. And I think what you can potentially do is that we cannot make reports is basically reports tell you what has already happened. So reports by nature are retrospective, right? What you could do is that there are a lot of in a lot of good CRMs you have automation inbuilt where you know what are the leading and lagging indicators. For example, if a lead comes from Google AdWords and for the current intake for your top program, that it needs to go to the right counselor and the priority of the lead should be hot and he should be sent 5 or 6 emailers in a sequential basis. Now this can happen like a clockwork every time, right? So I think rather than drawing it from the reports, we should know what are the right metrics, and we could then pull in and plug in those metrics in our marketing automation to make it work for you. But yes, even reports are a very good way to understanding new metrics which can be put back into the automation.
Great. So I would encourage the audience to ask more questions if they have any. So we'll wait for a few minutes.
Yeah, I think the topic is such that Deepanjana, that the questions will never end and there's no right answer. I have seen organizations who have just 4 or 5 reports, but they do an excellent job, and I've seen organizations who have more than 100, 110, 20 reports where they don't even look at the remaining 100 reports, right? So I think identifying and removing the noise from this whole analytics and reporting is as equally important than identifying the right reports to look at.
Definitely. So on that note, Abhishek, I guess we are running out of time. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We loved speaking to you and hearing your views on reports and what do you think should be the correct objective of having correct reports. So thank you. If anyone have joined us late, so we will be rolling out the presentation of the webinar to you over email shortly, and we will look forward to get in touch with you to discuss any of the reports or any of the other automation feature in detail. And you can reach out to us through our website, and we will also keep our contact information on the chat box itself. And we'll again come back with more informative sessions with Abhishek and other guys. So till then, we'll hope that you all keep safe and stay connected with Extra Edge. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Deepanjana, and have a safe one, everyone. Thank you.